Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. And on the seventh day God ended his work which he had made, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had made. And God blessed the seventh day, and sanctified it, because that in it he had rested from all his work which God created and made. These are the generations of the heavens and of the earth when they were created, in the day that the Lord God made the earth and the heavens, and every plant of the field before it was in the earth, and every herb of the field before it grew, for the Lord God had not caused it to rain upon the earth, and there was not a man to till the ground. But there went up a mist from the earth and watered the whole face of the ground. And the Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. And the Lord God planted a garden eastward in Eden, and there he put the man whom he had formed. And out of the ground made the Lord God to grow every tree that is pleasant to the sight, and good for food, the tree of life also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And a river went out of Eden to water the garden, and from where it was parted and became into four heads. The name of the first is Pison, that is it which passes the whole land of Havilah, where there is gold. And the gold of that land is good, there is bdellium and the onyx stone. And the name of the second river is Gihon, the same is it that passes the whole land of Ethiopia. And the name of the third river is Hiddekel, that is it which goes toward the east of Assyria. And the fourth river is Euphrates. And the Lord God took the man and put him into the garden of Eden to dress it and to keep it. And the Lord God commanded the man, saying,
Of every tree of the garden you may freely eat, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, you shall not eat of it, for in the day that you eat, you shall surely die.
And the Lord God said,
It is not good that the man should be alone, I will make a helper for him.
And out of the ground the Lord God formed every beast of the field and every fowl of the air, and brought them unto Adam to see what he would call them, and whatsoever Adam called every living creature, that was the name thereof. And Adam gave names to all cattle, and to the fowl of the air, and to every beast of the field, but for Adam there was not a helper for him. And the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and he slept, and he took one of his ribs, and closed up the flesh instead thereof. And the rib, which the Lord God had taken from man, made a woman and brought her unto the man. And Adam said,
This is now bone of my bones, and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man.
Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. And they were both naked, the man and his wife, and were not ashamed.
With the close of Genesis chapter 2, we step back from the vivid narrative to reflect on the deeper themes woven throughout this foundational moment of creation. This chapter is not just a description of origins, it is a portrait of divine intention, relationship, and purpose. Here, we see the Creator's care in forming humanity from the dust, the harmony between man and nature, the sacredness of rest, and the gift of companionship.
Genesis chapter 2 verses 1 to 3 marks a pivotal shift in the creation narrative, not with more acts of forming or filling, but with rest. After 6 days of creative work, God rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had done. This divine pause is not due to fatigue. Rather, it is a purposeful cessation, a declaration that creation is complete, whole, and good. By resting, God sets a divine precedent, a rhythm of work followed by rest. But this is no ordinary rest. It is blessed and sanctified, set apart from all other days. In doing so, God establishes the Sabbath not as an afterthought, but as the climax of creation. The Sabbath becomes a sacred pattern woven into time itself. It is not merely a break from work but a call to worship, reflect, and realign our lives with God's purposes. The sanctity of the Sabbath reminds us that we are not machines designed for endless productivity. Our worth is not found in how much we can accomplish, but in being made in the image of a God who both works and rests. Observing the Sabbath becomes an act of faith, a weekly declaration that God is sovereign, that his work is sufficient, and that we trust him enough to pause. Moreover, the Sabbath invites us into a spiritual rhythm. Just as God paused to delight in his creation, we are invited to step back, reflect on his goodness, and be refreshed in his presence. It's a reminder that our identity and purpose are not rooted in our labor, our titles, or our achievements, but in being God's creation, sustained by His grace. Genesis chapter 2 verses 1 to 3 doesn't just conclude the creation story, it inaugurates a holy rhythm for all human life. The Sabbath is not just a day, it's a theological statement, a sanctuary in time where heaven touches earth and humanity is invited to rest in the finished work of God. Unlike the broader, majestic overview of creation in Genesis chapter 1, where humanity is introduced as part of a grand sequence, Genesis chapter 2 offers a more intimate and focused portrait of how humans came to be. This chapter reveals that humanity was not simply spoken into existence like light or animals, but rather formed by God Himself with deliberate care. God formed man from the dust of the ground, as stated in Genesis chapter 2 verse 7, using His own hands, a metaphor that highlights personal involvement and craftsmanship. Then God breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, a striking image of divine intimacy. This moment is about a relationship. The breath of God signals a transfer of divine essence, marking humans as uniquely connected to their Creator in a way nothing else in creation is. This personal touch sets humanity apart. We are not the product of random chance. We are not an evolutionary accident or a last-minute addition. We are God's deliberate handiwork, crafted with purpose and love. Every detail in the creation of man points to our value and identity, shaped by God, placed in a prepared environment, and given responsibility over creation. Moreover, this act underscores the special role humans play in God's world. In Genesis chapter 1, verses 26 to 27, we are made in His image, and now, in Genesis chapter 2, we see that we are also recipients of His breath. This dual emphasis, image and breath, speaks of dignity, calling, and a capacity for relationship. We are created not merely to exist, but to reflect God's character, steward His creation, and walk in fellowship with Him. In a world where people often struggle with identity, worth, or purpose, Genesis chapter 2 whispers a powerful truth: you are not an accident. You are intentionally made by a God who knows you, breathes life into you, and desires a relationship with you. In Genesis chapter 2 verse 15, we read that, "And the Lord God took the man, and put him into the Garden of Eden to dress it and to keep it." This single verse carries profound theological and practical implications. It reveals that from the very beginning, humanity was entrusted with a sacred responsibility, stewardship over God's creation. Adam was not placed in the garden to enjoy its beauty but to cultivate it and protect it. This task implies purposeful work, intentional care, and accountability. Psalm chapter 24 verse 1 states that the earth and everything in it belong to God, and humans are His appointed managers. This divine assignment emphasizes that creation is not something to be dominated or exploited for selfish gain, but rather nurtured, preserved, and used wisely for the flourishing of all life. Importantly, this stewardship mandate was given before the fall. This tells us that work is not a curse, it is inherently good, meaningful, and part of God's design for human life. The dignity of work was established in Eden. It reflects God's own creative activity and invites humans to participate in His ongoing work of sustaining and developing the world. Therefore, biblical stewardship is both a gift and a responsibility. It calls us to honor God through how we use natural resources, how we treat animals, how we care for the environment, and even how we manage our time, talents, and relationships. Eden sets the standard. Humanity thrives not by exploiting the earth, but by faithfully serving as God's caretakers over it. Genesis chapter 2 verses 18 to 25 records a pivotal moment in human history, the creation of woman and the institution of marriage. In verse 18, God declares, "It is not good that the man should be alone, I will make him a helper." This divine statement breaks the rhythmic pattern of Genesis chapter 1, where everything God created was deemed good. Here, for the first time, something is not good: man's isolation. In response, God creates a suitable companion for Adam, Eve, formed not from the dust, but from Adam's rib, symbolizing equality, closeness, and intimacy. This passage presents marriage not as a human invention but as a divine institution. The union between Adam and Eve reflects God's intentional design for companionship, complementarity, and unity. Verse 24 establishes a foundational principle. Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. This one flesh union speaks of physical, emotional, and spiritual oneness, a covenantal bond that mirrors God's own faithful and enduring relationship with his people. Marriage, therefore, is not merely a social contract or a cultural norm. It is a sacred covenant, divinely established before any other human institution, before government, before the church, even before children. It serves as the building block of human society, designed to reflect God's image through love, unity, and mutual support. In a world that often redefines or diminishes the value of marriage, Genesis chapter 2 calls us back to its original purpose, a lifelong union between one man and one woman, rooted in divine wisdom, mutual respect, and covenantal faithfulness.
The themes in Genesis chapter 2 invite us to reflect on the origins of human relationships and on how these truths shape our daily lives. As we consider God's design for unity, responsibility, and love, it's important to pause and ask, how do these foundational truths influence our understanding of purpose, identity, and relationships today? Let's take a moment to reflect on some Bible study questions. What does God's rest teach us about work, worship, and balance? How does the idea of stewardship in the garden reflect on modern life? What significance does naming the animals hold? In what ways is marriage meant to reflect God's original design? What does innocence before the fall mean to you? As you reflect on these questions, take a moment to consider what God is revealing to you about His design for relationships, purpose, and community. Genesis chapter 2 isn't just history, it's a blueprint for how we're meant to live, love, and walk with God. If this study helped you see Genesis 2 in a new light, don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more in-depth Bible explorations, and share it with someone who might need a reminder of God's original design for marriage and companionship.